The sun began its ascent over the horizon, casting a soft golden light across the dense canopy of the remote forest. It was a place where time seemed to move more slowly, where the sound of rustling leaves and distant animal calls filled the air, creating a symphony of nature. Yet, beneath this serene facade lay an untamed wilderness, boasting remarkable beauty intertwined with dangers that could spell disaster for those unprepared. Towering cliffs pierced the sky like ancient sentinels, their jagged edges framed by a vibrant mix of greenery and wildflowers that clung bravely to the rock faces. These cliffs were not merely picturesque, they were enigmatic, representing both allure and peril. For wildlife navigating this rugged terrain, the steep drops could easily turn from a playful jaunt into a frantic escape from predators or natural disasters. Birds soared effortlessly in the clear blue sky above while hidden dangers lurked below. Shadows danced within crevices, the homes of creatures who thrived in this rocky enclave, snakes coiling silently among boulders and mountain goats deftly making their way along narrow ledges. Life here was dictated by instinct, survival pushing every animal to understand their environment intimately. As morning deepened, the interplay of sunlight and shadow revealed glistening waterfalls cascading down rocky faces, their crystal-clear waters shimmering like jewels against the backdrop of moss-covered stones. The very air felt alive, a crisp reminder of nature's unfurling beauty, but only for those who chose to tread carefully among its splendor. Embedded within this paradise was an invisible line that separated admiration from recklessness. Just a misstep might send a hiker tumbling into oblivion, an unwelcome encounter with gravity against solid rock. Amidst this striking scenery emerged Ethan, an intrepid hiker whose heart beat in sync with the rhythm of nature. His journey had begun as a familiar escape, drawn by equal parts adventure and reverence for the untouched wilderness around him. With each footfall, he savored the earthy scent of damp soil mingling with wild herbs carried by a gentle breeze. His spirit soared with every panoramic view revealing itself. However, an underlying awareness that danger loomed nearby kept his instincts sharp. As he rounded a bend on his trail, a path less traveled, Ethan paused unexpectedly at a sudden faint rustle among the shrubbery. Curiosity piqued, he ventured closer to investigate. A moment later, his breath caught in his throat as he spotted what lurked beyond, a bear cub precariously perched on an outcrop of rock jutting out into space, its small form trembling with terror. The stark contrast between its round, innocent eyes and the sheer drop just beyond sent waves of unease rippling through Ethan's core. And that instant, everything else faded away. The rich greenery surrounding him dimmed under the weight of concentration as he assessed the situation before him. Every detail sharpened in focus. How tiny the bear appeared against towering cliffs that dwarfed it, how frantically it shifted from paw to paw despite its frail limitations, how desperately it sought refuge amid an insurmountable crisis. This particular cub had ventured farther than intended, perhaps chasing after something alluring or simply experimenting with youthful bravado, but now it faced imminent peril. The realization struck Ethan to his very core. This delicate creature's fear echoed not just in its rapid breaths but resonated within him as well. This awe-inspiring encounter held its own mix of breathtaking vulnerability and undeniable brilliance. A reminder that even amid wild beauty lurked life-threatening challenges waiting for anyone unaware or unprepared. How would he respond? Torn between instinctive caution and protective compassion toward this small example of life teetering on this edge unfolded yet another chapter in his adventure. Every choice would matter. The hills cried out for rescue. Consequences loomed larger than just personal ambition. An urge propelled him toward action despite every rational whisper warning otherwise. Nature had tested his limits time and again, but forging bonds across species segregation spoke deeper truths. They echoed much louder than any solitary human endeavor alone ever could truly achieve within these revered wilds. And thus began Ethan's critical moment, a precarious decision at both crossroads where beauty met danger beneath. Soaring cliffs far from civilization's grasp yet closer than ever before to unveiling undeniable echoes. Should he help? What if attempting rescue failed? What awaited beyond those majestic yet treacherous walls remained rendered only questions swirling amongst clouds overhead. One thing stood sure, his heart beat with fervor driven by purpose unwavering. Ethan stood at the threshold of a pivotal moment, gazing at the bear cub that clung desperately to its narrow refuge. His heart raced as he took in the sight, a small figure trembling against the sheer rock face, eyes wide with fear. The instinct to act surged within him, but he hesitated, aware of the precariousness of the situation. The cub seemed lost, both in its physical space and in its understanding of the perilous world surrounding it. With a deep breath, Ethan approached slowly, mindful of each step on the uneven ground. He had always felt a profound connection to nature, a bond forged through years of hiking and camping alone among towering trees and whispering winds, but today was different. Today was not about solitude but rather about navigation between life and death. He could sense that this fragile creature relied wholly on him. The sun bathed everything in warm light as he moved closer, revealing new details about the coup's predicament. He had large, innocent eyes filled with panic that reflected Ethan's own internal turmoil. How had it ended up here? Had it strayed too far from its mother or perhaps been startled by a sudden noise? Every possible scenario raced through his mind as he formulated a plan. Ethan crouched down to put himself at a level with the cub, his movements deliberate and gentle. "Hey there," he spoke softly, hoping his calming tone would ease some of its distress. "It's okay, I'm here to help you." He reached out slowly, palms open and non-threatening, yet as much as he wanted to comfort the bear, he knew any sudden movement could trigger an instinctive flat response. At that moment, something unexpected happened. The bear cub let out a soft whimper that pierced through the stillness of the forest like an arrow. He shifted its weight nervously on the ledge but did not retreat further back into danger. Ethan saw this not only as a sign of fear but also an indication that perhaps, just perhaps, the cub sensed something reassuring in his presence. Knowing he needed to act quickly yet carefully, Ethan began assessing his surroundings for potential advantages. The edge of the ledge was dauntingly narrow. Even for him it would be treacherous without proper support. However, a sturdy tree branch jutted out nearby, an unyielding ally amid swirling uncertainty, offering a possible point of leverage if he needed it. As Ethan formulated his next moves mentally, flashes of doubt began creeping into his mind. What if he made things worse? What if he scared it away instead? Yet beneath these fears lay an unwavering resolve fueled by poignancy. How could he walk away when this creature needed help? "Oh right," he murmured more to himself than anyone else as courage steadied his hand upon that branch for support while inching forward cautiously. Each slow movement conveyed not only determination but compassion, an unbreakable thread connecting their fates together within this vast wilderness. As Ethan drew nearer still, something remarkable occurred. The frightened cub took one hesitant step closer toward him instead of shrinking backward into oblivion's brink. Its burgeoning trust entangled with primal instinct seemed almost miraculous against such odds, a testament echoed by nature itself where empathy transcended species boundaries. Feeling emboldened by this connection forged anew under duress and vulnerability alike, and compelled by a profound sense of duty, he began speaking again. Softly yet persistently while keeping both body language open and inviting. "Just hold on there, I'm coming for you." The urgency mounted around them like thick fog rolling over hillsides obscuring clarity, a reminder that time was slipping away faster than they could afford amidst growing concerns directly threatening lives involved. As moments turned into breaths shared between two beings from vastly different worlds united only through fati's whims, Ethan steeled himself for what lay ahead, navigating risk while embracing hope bound tightly together beneath skies graced with reckless beauty above, with every heartbeat echoing louder than before within those hallowed ground swept up moments steeped thickly in beauty mingled alongside danger beckoning quietly just beyond reach. Determination surged ever strong. A promise made silently whispered into both existence shaped between man and beast alike. Rescue awaited. As Ethan inched closer to the bear cub, he took a moment to observe its condition more carefully. The small creature was visibly trembling, its fur ruffled by the cool breeze that swept across the cliff's edge. Large, expressive eyes glistened with tears of fear, reflecting not only its vulnerability but also a desperate plea for help. Ethan felt a pang of empathy wash over him. This cub was not merely an innocent animal lost in the wild but a living embodiment of nature's fragility. The ledge upon which the cub stood was perilously narrow, just wide enough for it to maintain its balance, but not nearly enough to provide any sense of security. Ethan could see the weariness etched into its tiny frame, its sides heaving with shallow breaths, signaling that fear had gripped it tightly for far too long. He noticed how the cub's claws dug into the rock, a natural instinct to hold on, yet the sheer drop only inches away made every movement seem like a gamble against fate. Ethan's heart raced as he battled between his instincts and emotions. Here was this fragile creature, caught in a perilous situation it likely didn't fully understand. He imagined how frightened it must be, separated from its mother and unable to find a way back to safety. The thought struck him deeply. He felt an overwhelming drive to bridge that gap between despair and hope. He had always cherished moments spent in nature, surrounded by wildlife, but now he faced a profound test of character. "Come on, little one," he whispered softly, trying to project calmness into the air thick with tension. He kept his voice low and soothing, conscious that any loud sound could startle the cub further back into the abyss of panic. "You're not alone." The words hung in the air, mingled with the gentle rustling of leaves and distant bird calls, elements of their shared world that reminded him both were part of something greater. Yet even as he spoke words of comfort, Ethan couldn't ignore the reality before him. He needed to assess how best to approach without triggering a flat response from the cub. Every minute detail mattered, the position of its body, the flicker of its ears, and even the quickening pace of its heartbeat, which he could almost feel echoing through the silence. The bond forming between them was palpable. They were two beings navigating chaos in their own ways, one bound by fear and another driven by compassion. The cub's eyes darted around nervously as if searching for an escape route that wasn't there. Instinctively, it shifted its weight from one paw to another, looking back over the ledge as if contemplating whether to risk a leap. Ethan felt his own breath catch at this movement, a reminder of just how precarious things were. Each second stretched like an eternity as he weighed his options. Should he continue inching closer? Would his presence provide comfort or induce more panic? In that moment of uncertainty, a tense resolve solidified further. He understood that time was critical, not just for himself but for the little bear trying to make sense of its surroundings. He needed reassurance. It needed someone who believed it could be saved even when everything seemed hopeless. He focused on his own Breathing as he attempted to ground himself amidst swirling thoughts and emotions, with renewed determination, Ethan crouched down again to lessen his imposing presence. He extended his hand slowly toward the cub in a gesture of trust rather than threat. "You can do this," he murmured softly, hoping his steady tone would penetrate through the veil of fear enveloping them both. As their eyes locked once more, something remarkable happened. The cub seemed to pause and study him intently instead of recalling further back into panic. It was as though time stood still in that moment. All distractions faded away and only they existed in that fragile bubble of connection. This tiny creature's trust stirred something profound within Ethan. A realization that while they may be worlds apart in species, they shared an unspoken bond rooted in a desire for safety and understanding. Just then, a gentle gust of wind swept through the area, rustling leaves overhead and stirring Ethan's senses anew. He felt invigorated by nature's whispering encouragement. It served as a reminder that sometimes hope could emerge from even the most daunting circumstances. With purpose driving him forward, he prepared himself for what lay ahead, guiding this little soul safely away from danger while forging a connection that transcended words, a promise held sacred within their intertwined fates beneath an expansive sky painted with endless possibilities. As Ethan knelt close to the edge of the ledge, his heart swelled with conflicting emotions. Every instinct he had honed through years of hiking in the wilderness screamed for action, yet an insistent voice cautioned him to stop and consider the implications of his intervention. The bear cub was clearly distressed, trembling and vulnerable, but Ethan grappled with the moral complexities of human interaction with wildlife. Should he intervene? Was it right to impose his help upon a creature that belonged to the wild? From a young age, Ethan had been taught to respect nature and its inhabitants from a distance, never to intrude upon their world unless absolutely necessary. The forest was a sacred domain, where life flourished according to its own rules. Yet here he was, confronted by a living testimony of fragility, a reminder that even the most majestic elements of nature could be caught in perilous situations. The presence of this bear cub challenged everything he believed about the separation between human beings and the natural world. He remembered stories of well-intentioned interventions gone awry, instances where humans intervened only to complicate matters for the creatures they sought to help. A part of him echoed warnings cautioning against touching or disturbing wildlife. After all, they were animals rooted deeply in instinct and survival. Yet as he observed the wide-eyed fear radiating from the cub, chaos reigned in his mind as thoughts spiraled between action and restraint. What if his efforts caused more harm than good? What if intervening disrupted a delicate balance meant to exist in nature? Yet another voice within him rose, the voice fueled by compassion and empathy that tugged at his heartstrings with insistence. He chided himself for even questioning whether he should step forward because at that moment, this small creature was drowning in fear, grasping for any semblance of security it could find. Departmentalizing these feelings into moral conundrums seemed trivial compared to acknowledging its struggle. Could he truly stand by when it needed someone willing to bridge the chasm separating terror from salvation? Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the fresh air fill his lungs like a surge of clarity, a potent reminder that sometimes action defined intentions louder than whispers of doubt could ever hope to convey. People always spoke about not intervening in nature's course, yet did all creatures not deserve aid when they found themselves helplessly treading water so far beyond their abilities? Surely compassion wouldn't disrupt existence, it might spark an opportunity for connection instead. In this single heartbeat above cliffs carved by time itself stood life suspended between possibility and peril, their late choice amid uncertainty. This wasn't merely about saving a bear cub, this was about embracing responsibility toward all beings sharing their earthly home, fostering not just survival but trusting each has a place along a continuum straddling life is many intersections. With newfound resolve flooding through him like sunlight breaking down some brace upon darkened trees surrounding them both, Ethan stood taller as embers ignited hope within. If I can bring it back from despair today, he thought, perhaps I can prove that kindness still resonates, even amidst chaos. But even as conviction blossomed into certainty, shadows lingered behind. What consequences awaited following this crossroad? Would he face backlash or judgment from others who might argue against interference where nature merely followed laws written silently on scrolls far older than humankind itself? Ethan pondered briefly whether he'd have regrets later for stepping outside societal boundaries drawn around wild creatures deemed untouchable, but ultimately felt in sync with feelings driving him deeper into connection they're shared beneath an endless sky. As if sensing each wavering heartbeat rising alongside echoes swirling throughout beauty laden with rescinded dangers, every breath provided binding hope gently urging forward into valid attempts eager for resolution rather than mere risk alone. Ethan's path coalesced, within mortal skin wrapped tightly around possibilities unfolding endlessly ahead lay light enveloping paths yet untrod, with clearer purpose illuminating those winding trails draped delicately over surreal landscapes painted vibrant hues across horizons met through ephemeral embrace. He resolved firmly that now was indeed time. With hands steadied by compassion tempered patiently against currents entwined between urgency experience trapped within stalemates, nothing mattered aside from one singular aim now taking shape, with determination coursing through him. Ethan stood at the edge of the ledge, formulating a plan for the rescue of the trembling bear cub. He understood that every move he made would require careful consideration, not only to ensure his safety but also to earn the coup's trust and lead it towards safety. His instincts as an experienced hiker kicked in as he recalled lessons about animal behavior, particularly regarding how frightened animals might react in stressful situations. First and foremost, Ethan knew he had to maintain a calm demeanor. Alarm only bred panic, and the last thing he wanted was for the cub to bolt off the ledge in fright. He decided to keep his movements slow and deliberate, avoiding any sudden actions that might startle the bear. Each minute detail mattered. He recognized that surrendering to fear could seal both their fates in that moment of vulnerability. Assessing the terrain was crucial. The ledge was narrow and precarious, so he looked for alternative routes that would allow him to draw closer without risking his footing. Beyond the immediate edge of the cliff lay thicker brush, an area where he could potentially hide himself from the bear's line of sight while inching closer, thereby reducing its anxiety and increasing his chances of a successful approach. Ethan's eyes scanned the area for anything useful, a sturdy branch, a rock formation that might provide support, or even a makeshift tool he could fashion from nearby resources. Spotting a thick tree branch lying on the ground a short distance away, he quickly navigated to it, using it for added balance as he approached again. The branch would not only serve as a stabilizing aid but also as a means of extending his reach if necessary. Thinking strategically about his own safety, he placed himself slightly below the ledge, his height rather than standing directly above the cub, a position that might have intensified its fear. By lowering himself physically and metaphorically, he could appear more approachable. He crouched low and took deep breaths, grounding himself further in the moment before attempting any closer interaction. Next came the understanding of how to communicate with the bear cub nonverbally. Ethan remembered reading that animals like bears are deeply attuned to body language, thus, projecting an aura of non-threatening energy was paramount. He decided to keep his body turned sideways rather than facing directly toward it. This subtle shift would make him appear less imposing. Additionally, he would keep his voice soft and steady whenever speaking while avoiding direct eye contact at first, or respectful acknowledgement of its space. Just a little closer, Ethan murmured gently as he eased himself down further into a seated position, allowing his body to appear smaller and more inviting. He hadn't moved much yet. Just an inch forward here or there while making soothing sounds seemed right. As moments passed, Ethan felt the energy between them shifting subtly, the bear's frantic breathing becoming steadier amid his calming presence. This taught him that sometimes patience outweighed action when working alongside nature's creatures. Turning these initial minutes into practice sessions in empathy and understanding, imagining scenarios helped solidify his confidence further. What if he needed to gently guide the cub back towards safety if it didn't move willingly? He envisioned using the branch to create space between him and the edge while offering it support. If it would cling onto something sturdy during its descent alongside him, contemplating possible escape routes once they began moving together consumed his thoughts. Next, if he could draw it steadily toward him with single steps backward into safer ground, the idea met with joy, sparked anew within. Everything hinged on forming trust along each segment traversed. Finally regrouping those scattered thoughts, coalescing into one cohesive narrative, he realized beneath layers of instinctual caution lay shared experience uniting predator with protector. This was about navigating courage with grace across thresholds set ages before humanity dared define them, with every heartbeat resonating deeply alongside rustling leaves whispering hints urging forth this courageous connection. Ethan resolved firmly, now reinforced by clarity illuminating routes yet untraveled. Something within beckoned, not just survival seeking help but a gentle invitation promising freedom. So holding each breath tight against ebbs and flows, mounting upon unseen waves unfolding towards brighter shores, elevating every hope cast deeply among shadows, weaving paths on sheer cliffs, reminded him always that these very moments heralded beginnings painted anew, determined and equipped with compassion guiding every calculated step taken resolutely onward. Ethan stood ready, rescue awaited. With his plan set and determination fueling him, Ethan proceeded to close the distance between himself and the bear cub. The air around him felt electric, charged with a blend of anxiety and hope as he took the first cautious step forward. Every fiber in his being urged him to act swiftly, yet he knew that haste could lead to disaster. Each movement had to be deliberate, a careful dance on the narrow ledge, where one misstep could mean calamity for both of them. As he advanced, Ethan kept his gaze fixed on the cub, watching its every reaction. The little bear wobbled nervously on the ledge, its body tense and eyes darting in fear. Its trembling grew more pronounced as Ethan drew near, and he could sense the rising panic. It was instinctive for a wild animal to feel threatened by a larger creature. "It's okay," he whispered, his voice barely above a murmur, hoping to soothe its frayed nerves. "I'm here to help you." The ledge beneath Ethan's feet felt precariously narrow, a stark reminder of the sheer drop that loomed just beyond. He focused on steadying his breath while assessing the terrain carefully with each step. His heart raced as gravel shifted slightly beneath him, sending small pebbles tumbling into the abyss below. The sound echoed ominously in the stillness of the forest, and he couldn't help but feel a pang of fear at what could happen if he slipped. Ethan's hand gripped the sturdy branch he'd picked up earlier. It served as both a balance aid and a reassuring presence. As he used it to gauge his footing, he noticed how the coup's gaze had fixated on the branch. Momentarily fascinated by the length of the object that seemed to connect them, taking this cue, Ethan crouched lower, gently tapping the branch against the ground in a rhythmic manner that might provide some comfort. A non-threatening gesture from one being to another, with every inch closer he got, Ethan's mind raced through his options. What if the cub panicked and ran? He would need to be prepared for any unexpected moves on its part. If it decided to leap backward off that ledge in fright, he wanted to be ready to react, not just for himself but for its safety too. Just then, Ethan witnessed a surge of emotion flicker across the cub's face, a mix of confusion and curiosity replacing sheer fright momentarily. It tilted its head as if trying to gauge whether Ethan posed a threat or if he was indeed there to help, encouraged. By this brief moment of trust, Ethan let out another soft come on, this time accompanied by a gentle movement of the branch toward the cub. The bear cautiously edged closer, shifting its weight nearer to the edge of safety yet still clinging stubbornly to its precarious perch. Each careful shuffle seemed like a victory, every hesitant inch pulled at Ethan's heartstrings while igniting his resolve further. But just as he felt hope blooming, an unexpected noise pierced through, the rustling of leaves from above. There was something unsettling about it. Both man and bear froze momentarily, instincts kicking in. Ethan looked up instinctively, scanning for any signs of danger. Was this something natural or perhaps another animal that could disrupt their moment? In that brief pause, he tightened his grip on his branch and tried to keep his presence calm and grounded, but as he turned back toward the cub, he saw it stand rigidly still, eyes wide with alarm. It had sensed something awry too. His heart sank as he realized how delicate their situation was. That one sound had injected panic back into their fragile connection. The bear's primal instincts were ignited anew, fear overwhelming curiosity. With a swift shuffle backward, it teetered dangerously close to losing its footing. Wait! Ethan exclaimed softly, lowering his body even further to appear less menacing, a strategy he hoped would keep the bear from fleeing back into uncertainty. I'm not here to hurt you, I promise. He held out his hand slowly now, stopping at intervals while maintaining gentle eye contact. In that moment of tension, time slowed down as uncertainty enveloped them both like a fog. Would the cub hear him? Would it trust him again after its fleeting panic? Questions swirled in Ethan's mind, but determination outweighed doubt as he reaffirmed his commitment to guide this small life back to safety. With patience becoming their lifeline between predator and protector, Ethan steadied himself inwardly against all mounting pressures around him while readying for what lay ahead, navigating through fear toward an unknown path shrouded in potential both perilous yet promising. Rescue awaited. As Ethan steadied himself and prepared for the next move toward the bear cub, the once calm atmosphere around him shifted dramatically. The sky, which had been a soft blue, darkened ominously as dark clouds rolled in from the horizon, creeping stealthily over the treetops like a shadowy veil. A sudden gust of wind whipped through the trees, rustling leaves and sending shivers down Ethan's spine. He could sense Nature's shift before it fully arrived, the air thickening with tension as if the forest itself held its breath. The bear cub, already on edge, reacted instantly to this change. Its wide eyes darted toward the rising wind, ears twitching nervously as the howling sound increased in volume. Ethan's heart raced as he watched the coop's body tense up, shifting back slightly from the ledge. Realizing that the weather might exacerbate its fear, he quickly adjusted his approach. It's okay. Just stay with me, he whispered, hoping to ground both himself and the cub in this moment of panic. But just as Ethan regained his focus and began to inch forward again, an unexpected disturbance erupted from above. A flock of birds, startled by the gusty winds, suddenly erupted from their perch in nearby trees. Their frantic flapping wings and high-pitched calls filled the air with chaotic noise, a cacophony that sent shockwaves of terror through the bear cub. In an instant, it darted closer to the lit edge, instinctively preparing to flee. Ethan felt a surge of adrenaline as his instincts kicked in. No, not like this, he exclaimed softly but urgently, his voice strained against the rising storm around them. He quickly crouched lower and extended his hand further toward the frightened cub in a desperate attempt to re-establish trust. Stay right here, I'm not going to hurt you. His heart pounded fiercely in his chest as each second stretched into what felt like eternity. The wind howled louder now, whipping branches and debris about as dark clouds continued to swirl overhead. The once familiar landscape morphed into something charged with anxiety and unpredictability. Ethan could feel nature closing in on him, both a wild beauty and overwhelming danger encapsulated within these moments. Instinctively aware that time was running out for both him and the cub, Ethan strategically recalibrated his plan amidst this chaos. With every deep breath, he reinvigorated his resolve. He needed to act swiftly but wisely. He recalled observing how animals often sought shelter in storms. The instinct to find security amid turbulence drove them towards hope. Let's find safety together, he murmured softly, channeling every ounce of compassion into his words. In an effort to distract the cub from the immediate panic around it, he gently tapped the branch against a nearby rock. A playful sound designed to spark curiosity rather than fear. To Ethan's relief, this small action drew attention back toward him for just a moment. The little bear paused and tilted its head slightly with curiosity, a fleeting opportunity that he had to capitalize on swiftly. However, he knew that any sudden movement could still set off a prickle of panic once more. Suddenly, another blast of wind swept through with renewed ferocity. Leaves swirled up like confetti caught in a frenzy as Ethan watched helplessly. The force of nature was no longer simply a backdrop, it was becoming an adversary in his quest for rescue. Just then, without any warning whatsoever, a heavy rain began to fall. It started slowly with scattered droplets but quickly escalated into a torrential downpour that pelted both man and bear alike. Ethan winced as freezing water streamed down his face and drenched his clothes. Mud began bubbling around his feet on loose rocks beneath him. The roar of rain mixed with the cries of frightened birds created an almost surreal ambience, a storm raging not only in nature but also within him. "Come on," Ethan urged again with conviction laced through exhaustion, his voice barely audible against the storm's fury. The tightrope balance between them was beginning to slip dangerously away. With every nerve firing within him at this critical juncture, he pushed through an escalating surge of fear for the bear's safety while desperately wanting to protect himself too. And these were moments where chaos reigned supreme. The world blurred into something primal as instincts clashed head-on between them. Predator versus protector battling against nature's fury. Could they forge a path through fear together amidst such unpredictable elements swirling around them? All at once it became clear, neither could afford to give up. If they were going to navigate this storm, this unpredictable whirlwind, they had to rely on one another more than ever before. Thoughts crystallized into an unwavering belief that hope still existed, hidden beneath layers threatening despair waiting patiently beyond chaos waiting. For them both, Ethan breathed deeply once again, embracing determination transformed anew amid rain-soaked surroundings. They had come so far together, now they must push onwards yet again, for safety awaited on paths unseen. As the rain poured down in relentless sheets, Ethan's heart raced with anticipation and dread. He understood the gravity of the situation. The storm's fury mirrored the chaos within him as he reached out toward the bear cub, fighting against the forces that threatened to pull them apart. The little creature stood frozen, its wide eyes reflecting confusion and fear amid the increasing noise and confusion around them. "Just a little closer," he urged softly, trying to break through the tension that clung to the air like fog. He steadied himself, bracing for whatever might happen next. If only he could coax it a few more inches toward safety, they might make it through this together. The cub shifted its weight nervously on the ledge, glancing back into the abyss behind it, an instinctive response born from fear. With every passing second, Ethan felt time slipping away. He needed to act quickly before panic overwhelmed them both. Suddenly, a particularly fierce gust swept through, causing loose stones underfoot to slip and tumble over the edge. The sound sent the cub reeling backward. "No, don't go," Ethan shouted, his voice barely audible over the roar of rain and wind. He crouched lower, extending his hand further in a desperate attempt to bridge the gap between them. "Please, I'm not going to hurt you." As if sensing the urgency in his voice, the cub took a hesitant step forward, but then paused again, a moment of hesitation fraught with uncertainty. Ethan's heart leaped at this small sign of progress. Perhaps he could reach it after all. With renewed determination ignited within him, Ethan tapped his branch against the rock once more, creating a soft rhythm that might ease the tension hanging thick in the air. He watched closely as the bear cub peered down at the branch, intrigued by this curious movement amid an otherwise chaotic scene. But just when he thought he was making progress, another explosion of thunder rumbled overhead, an ominous reminder of Nature's unpredictable wrath. The bear cub reared back again in instinctive fright, eyes wide and trembling. Time seemed to stretch painfully as Ethan felt something shift. Would this be their moment of failure? In that instant of desperation, every fear rushed through Ethan, a visceral need to save this creature battling against his own limitations and vulnerabilities. He thought about their shared predicament, two beings caught in turmoil brought on by overwhelming circumstances beyond their control. "Stay with me," he implored again, using every ounce of energy within him to project calmness despite mounting fear. His fingers trembled as they reached out, moving slowly toward the bear without breaking eye contact, a gesture meant to convey trust amidst turmoil. Then something remarkable happened. A flicker of understanding passed between them as if an invisible thread connected their souls across fears and uncertainty. The cub edged forward once more, cautious yet compelled by something deeper than instinct alone. Ethan held his breath in that fragile moment as he felt hope surge within him like a wave crashing against shorelines drawn by gravity's relentless pull. "Come on," he whispered almost reverently now. Every word was charged with promise and encouragement, an invitation to take that leap together into safer haven. As if responding to unspoken trust woven into those words, the little bear took another tentative step forward, with sheer determination fueling its resolve, fueled by innocence yearning for rescue. It stepped closer onto slightly sturdier ground. Ethan felt tears welling up as joy collided with relief. Could they really do this? Just one more push, just a few more inches was all it needed. But then chaos erupted anew. A sudden surge of water cascaded down from above where rocky ledges met, rivulets forming streams flowing downstream faster than ever before. Time warped as splashes crashed alongside howling winds growing louder still. The deluge attempted pulling both man and creature alike into oblivion. Instinctively grabbing tighter onto branches jutting forth nearby while shouting back toward safety, cast shadows hidden deep beneath cascading torrents filled with fears unsaid. "No!" Ethan yelled fiercely now, his voice ringing clear above raging storms as though reaching past all doubts, flooding in waves swirling dangerously close. with one resolute push, the bear lunged forward into action. In an instant, electrified with sheer willpower and instinct unleashed without hesitation, it bounded toward him, darting desperately onto firmer footing. Ethan opened his arms wide invitingly as emotion surged through him unrestrained. Could they bridge this final chasm separating them from freedom together? Would they emerge victorious from chaos? As instincts collided amidst tumultuous surroundings, the moment hit right. They embraced destiny forged anew through love, manifested brazenly, weaving paths unseen before. A heartbeat later, the bear landed safely beside him. Success overcame resounding echoes, wrapping both creatures tightly within ephemeral connections forged on treacherous cliffs soaring high above valleys waiting patiently below. The storm may have raged around them, but here stood man and beast united at last amidst waves crashing along turbulent shores, promising brighter tomorrows ahead. Rescue had not just been achieved. Together they had triumphed against all odds, built upon bonds intricately spun through shared experiences, manifesting both courage and grace flourished anew, as the storm began to recede. Leaving behind droplets clinging to leaves and a lingering scent of damp earth, Ethan sat back on the soft ground, staring into the hazy expanse of the forest. The bear cub, no longer trembling with fear, nestled beside him, its fur a little wet from the rain but warm and breathing steadily. The feeling of elation washed over him like a soothing balm, mingling with exhaustion as reality slowly settled in. Triumphant relief coursed through Ethan's veins. He had successfully rescued the cub from a precarious fate on that ledge. Questions flooded his mind. Had he truly acted wisely during those critical moments? Was it indeed right for him to intervene in Natura's course? These thoughts sparked an internal struggle as he grappled with a mix of exhilaration from the rescue and lingering shadows of self-doubt. The emotional weight of what had transpired felt stunningly heavy. This wasn't merely about saving an animal. It was about confronting vivid reminders of his own limitations when events unfolded beyond human control. Ethan looked down at the little bear, which gazed up at him with trusting eyes filled with innocent wonder. In its eyes lay an unspoken connection built during their frantic moments amidst chaos, the bridge between predator and protector. Strengthened by shared vulnerability. As the gentle rumble of thunder faded into the distance and silence enveloped them, he allowed himself to savor this moment, the adrenaline rushing through him slowly giving way to clarity. He couldn't help but feel as if fate had woven their destinies together through layers thickened by time spent side by side in turmoil. What would have happened had he not intervened? The questions hung unanswered in the cool air. In those exhausting breaths, he reflected on both the fragility and resilience inherent within nature, a duality much like the one he himself embodied as both hiker and human being. As so often dismissed as merely passive observers, humans held responsibilities extending beyond their actions. Whenever stepping into wild spaces, one unknowingly becomes intertwined with forces greater than themselves. Patience surrendered amid instance rife with reflection and experience forged anew. Ethan recalled stories he'd heard while growing up about supposed boundaries between man and beast loftily drawn across Natura's tapestry. Yet standing there in that moment, it became achingly clear just how arbitrary such lines could seem. Each encounter added threads intertwining relationships spanning across species, a constant dance shaping behaviors towards survival amidst echoes cast by heavy footsteps trekking through protected lands. The rain-soaked earth began to dry under a hesitant sun inching its way back through grey clouds. The bear cub began to stir beside him as if sensing his arrival after tumultuous moments spent teetering on cliffs high above valleys below. Its journey hadn't ended even though danger lay past. Every heartbeat echoed growth earned through experience brought amid warmth shared quietly now showcased vulnerability mending together shelters long abandoned along wooded corridors etched deep within hearts yet united thoroughly underneath broad skies stretched deeply across horizons unadorned until now, with that silent reckoning embracing softer stillness cloaked around them. Ethan knew intuitively that life required courage sculpted out of compassion rather than constraints defined rigidly by synthesized ideals climbing high upon balconies held reverently over descendants left behind thousands years before. Footprints graced grassy dales or stone-hewn paths crept alongside water swirling softly downhill downriver towards shimmering lakes tucked far-reaching sunlit open arms where everything stitched back together flowed gently onward toward quiet horizons undulating along glens formed underneath boundless expanse endless, forgiveness intermingled revealing preservation echoed moving forward. Turning toward this improvisational companion resting now peacefully beside him, the reality surged forth again combining complexity wrapped tightly all around it just like commitment ignited shining brightly ignited once more. Wielding new foundations enriched by bonds treasured warmly shared, neath landscapes softened deep within coherence held close tightly beneath winds whispered sweetly amending repair dreams fueling returns radiant shorelines resting safely ahead promising brighter tomorrows awaiting ardently rekindled symbols, forged from love learned embracing victories redefined wholly transformed free from cagey chains binding souls ensnared watching transformative pathways unfold anew swept across this journey boundless surely lighting promise, their adventures awaited. Together they'd embrace what lay ahead, devoted joyously imagining discoveries yet found, navigating realms reshaped, moving forward, sharing wisdom earned, transcending simple lingering doubts, emerging stronger, silencing whispers urging. Still pressed beyond shifting paths, transcendence is found beneath moonless skies, embracing tomorrow, awaiting joyously bound alongside verdant valleys stretching endlessly wide, revealing redemption. Found intertwined graciously alongside grace restored, with the rain now reduced to a gentle drizzle, Ethan sat in the soft earth, the bear cub curled beside him, feeling a sense of peace settling over both of them. This moment, huddled together in the aftermath of chaos, allowed Ethan to reflect deeply on the broader themes stirred by his recent experience. Compassion, environmental conservation, and coexistence hung heavily in his heart. They were all interconnected threads woven intricately. Through their encounter, Ethan couldn't shake the powerful realization that his decision to act had resonated far beyond this singular event. That small act of kindness, the instinct to save an innocent life, highlighted what it meant to possess compassion for creatures that share this planet with us. In addressing the bear cub's fear and vulnerability, he recognized how easily compassion could manifest itself in moments of urgency. It was a reminder that amidst nature's indifference, where survival often dictated behavior, honest empathy could forge unexpected connections even in chaos. His mind drifted to the teachings he had received growing up. He remembered the conversations emphasizing respect for wildlife, the admonishments to keep a safe distance from wild animals. Such wisdom had its place. It acknowledged the delicate balance needed between humans and nature. Yet witnessing firsthand how he could impact the bear cub's emotional state shifted something within him. Perhaps it was not enough to merely observe from afar. Sometimes, the impetus for action ran deeper than mere caution or fear. Ethan scanned the serene landscape surrounding them, the lush greenery dripping with moisture reflecting shades of vibrant life. It dawned on him just how fragile this ecosystem was. Each living being played a significant role in sustaining life within it. His experience underscored the idea that protecting wildlife and conserving natural spaces meant understanding their inherent struggles. Though, every creature deserved a fighting chance, and by extension, every individual shared a responsibility to foster these connections. Shifting into a more profound realization, Ethan thought of the pressing need for environmental conservation efforts. If even one animal's predicament could echo larger realities, in which many species were losing their habitats and facing extinction, then every effort mattered profoundly. This was not merely an issue set apart from daily lives, it was about creating sustainable solutions that respected ecosystems while acknowledging human impact on them. Lessons emerged freely as he glanced down at the cub nestled quietly beside him. Coexistence wouldn't come from fear or dominance but rather from acknowledgement of shared struggles. The interplay of instinct, the need for survival, reflected humanity's own journey through existence fraught with challenges. Just as humans navigated complexity in an ever-changing environment, so too did animals adapt and strive for balance among shifting realities. The inviting warmth of connection sparked between them like a flame illuminating dark spaces. Uncoupled vulnerability bred a silence filled with understanding as nature taught both lessons anew. Ethan cradled that thought gently, the idea that perhaps by nurturing individual relationships with wildlife, humans could create more reverberating change throughout entire ecosystems. He envisioned future paths paved by awareness fostering accountability, a potent movement sprouting from simple seeds sown through thoughtful actions toward animals like this bear cub left vulnerable that fateful day upon cliffs hovering high above valleys stretching far below. How many others were there still unseen? How many stories lay buried within dense forests just waiting for someone brave enough to unearth them? In those moments spent in quiet contemplation alongside his furry companion, Ethan felt invigorated to continue sharing stories of connection born from courage rather than despair while advocating fiercely for preservation wherever possible within shared landscapes infusing vitality flowing brightly ever onward. The union born here today spoke volumes of potential yet ignited beneath widely arching skies imbued with dreams twisting upward seeking glimpses glimpsed through interwoven destinies. Brilliantly illuminated across horizons bent by aspirations brightening toward fulfillment emerging fresh like wide open blooms ushering forth quietly waiting patiently inviting discovery trailing new adventures lying ahead. Together man and bear might venture broadly refreshed anew as confidence entwined inseparably forged solidified between bonds intertwined demanding respect birthed alongside unity benefiting harmony taught fervently evolving shared existence layered graciously across paths. Discovered timelessly aligned strictly along biomes peaking bearing promises full. All born united onward alongside grateful echoes promising brighter tomorrows cultivated tenderly waiting patiently unfolding sweetly onward through verdant pathways leading toward holistic flourishing revealed navigating realms, where every relationship flourishes wildly enriching human experiences enabling better futures instilled firmly grounded reverently embraced yielding abundance regaling generations. Captured wandering fragments caught closely scrutinizing together bespoke encounters brightened grounding compassion uplifting treasured memories splendidly unveiled stitching together futures elegantly created forming lasting legacies neither forgotten nor left behind. The sun broke through the clouds, casting a warm glow over the forest, illuminating the path ahead. As Ethan sat beside the bear cub, he couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude for this moment of clarity amid chaos. The rescue had not only saved a young lad but had also opened his eyes to the deeper messages woven into their shared experience. In a world often characterized by strife and division, Ethan recognized that vulnerability could lead to profound moments of connection. His heart swelled with understanding that bravery wasn't just about grand gestures, it lay in the quieter, subtler choices we made every day to embrace empathy and extend our hands to those in need, whether they were human or animal. It was as if the bear cub had awakened something inside him, a call to cultivate compassion not only for wildlife but for the entirety of the natural world surrounding them both. This adventure had also revealed that coexistence with nature required more than mere observation. It demanded active participation. Each decision to intervene, to protect, and to respect this delicate balance showcased a commitment to preservation. Ethan contemplated the fragility of life and how quickly circumstances could shift, how many creatures faced struggles similar to what the bear cub had endured, silently begging for a chance at survival. As he thought about his own journey through the forest that day, he realized that responsibility toward nature extended beyond just individual interactions. It was part of a larger tapestry of existence wherein all lives intertwine. He envisioned a world where humans recognized their role as stewards of their environment, where empathy and action went hand in hand to create sustainable ecosystems that benefited all inhabitants. And reflecting on these themes, he felt invigorated by the knowledge that every effort mattered. Even small actions could have ripple effects, inspiring communities to come together for conservation efforts or encouraging individuals to cherish and protect their local wildlife. The warming sunlight now also acted as a reminder of the potential for renewal. Dark storms could give way to brighter days. The bear cub stirred beside him, nuzzling against his side, and Ethan felt an overwhelming surge of affection wash over him, a desire to ensure that this creature would thrive amidst life's challenges. He knew now that fostering a bond with animals meant understanding their needs beyond just physical safety. It was about creating environments where they could flourish naturally alongside humanity. Ethan envisioned himself becoming an advocate for wildlife protection, sharing stories like his own to deepen connections between people and the natural world. How powerful would it be if others could hear how a single act of kindness transformed an encounter fraught with danger into one filled with hope? He thought about leading educational treks through this very forest, helping others understand the delicate ecosystems they were stepping into and the lives existing within them. Moreover, in changing hearts and minds, perhaps he could inspire a movement toward greater environmental awareness, one in which people would see animals not merely as distant creatures but as integral parts of their communities deserving of respect and protection. This idea fueled his enthusiasm, igniting within him a passion to do more. As he rose to his feet, the bear cub followed suit, looking up at him with its trusting gaze. And that moment, Ethan understood that this was only the beginning. Not just for him but for both of them. Together, they would journey forward, embracing new adventures while acting upon the lessons learned from fear transformed into trust. Stepping into his future with newfound clarity and purpose, Ethan felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that true bravery involved standing up for what was right even when it was difficult. With each step he took into the thriving landscape before him, he carried the weight of responsibility alongside the promise of tomorrow, a commitment to advocate fiercely for all beings on this planet who shared their home with such vibrant beauty. He paused for a moment, taking in the grandeur of nature before him. Tree canopies swayed gently in rhythm with whispers of wind while birds flitted playfully overhead. This was life pulsating in all its glory, a reminder that together, humans and wildlife could thrive by intertwining courage with compassion. With a steady resolve anchored deeply, it was clear, the responsibility toward nurturing balance and coexistence fell within each person's heart. Echoes would reverberate reminding all to act boldly, to embrace empathy during times of crisis and forge brighter pathways illuminated by kindness guiding futures lovingly forward.